Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with some more knife content. Today we're going to be looking at the Microtech Hawk push button auto. This is going to be a karambit style blade, and yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of giving my thoughts and overview. This knife actually on my Facebook group, Only Blades Greater Than $250. Soon after I'm done doing this video, we're actually going to be doing a raffle for this one. So wanted to knock it out. Before I get started, happy December. It's been a while. Things are crazy during the holidays, whatever, but I'm very excited. I got a couple new knives in, things that I'm really looking forward to reviewing in the near future. Before we hop into the overview, this is the box that it comes with, your standard Microtech box. Inside the literature, you're going to kind of, goes over how to actuate this thing. If you actually need that, it's pretty straightforward. There's one button on it, as well as warranty information. And then, yeah, that's that's pretty much it. So the details on this knife, so it is going to be a push button, single action auto, karambit style. Obviously that karambit blade is kind of hard to miss. It features a 4-inch blade. It's going to be 8.75 inches overall. Closed, you are looking at 5 inches. It features aluminum handles and kind of like this rubberized inlay. It's not quite like vulcanized rubber, but there's definitely a rubbery feel to it. It weighs pretty lightweight, 4.7 ounces, which is close to that kind of 1-to-1 ratio we look for in knives. It also features, or has I should say, a steel pocket clip. It's going to be right hand tip up only. The MSRP is kind of anybody's guess, so I've seen on the internet anywhere from $400 to $500, but it should be foot stomped that on the secondary market these go for a lot cheaper, probably closer to that $350 mark. The version that I have, it features an XHP stainless steel blade. It does have a glass breaker on the back of it, which I thought was an interesting touch. These are going to be made in the US of A. So we're going to jump into it. I've had some time to spend with this knife, wanted to go over some of my observations, and then, yeah, kind of my my anecdotal review of if this knife is right or not for you. Thanks for tuning in. I actually almost forgot. So before I get into my overview of this knife and observations, I wanted to make a few comparisons because this is a very large knife. And we have, let's see what I have on the table here. So the Microtech Hawk Auto as compared to a Curtis F3 Medium. Looks like that. Then I also, new to me, a ProTech Mordax, yeah. I'm going to be reviewing this one pretty soon. I'm really excited for that. And then let me reach into my bag real quick. Almost forgot to take it out. But the Hawk as compared to a Chris Reeve large Sebenza 31. Looks like that. So, pretty comparable in size to a large Sebenza, but, the Sebenza obviously, it does weigh more just due to the aluminum scales, but, as we'll see here kind of on my overview, this blade is just like beastly. It is thick, it is long, it is pretty mean. So with that, we're going to get into some of my observations. All told, I really haven't carried this knife much at all. As you can see, I mean, it's pretty pristine as far as an example goes, but I think I was able to sit down with it long enough to get my observations down, and wanted to share them with you. The first observation that I had is this is just such a purpose built knife for slashing flesh. This is never going to be a great utility knife, but more of a, you pull this out and people are like, holy shit, what is that? I mean, literally, when this thing fires, like, even my wife, she was like, what the hell is that thing? Even as a knife enthusiast, etc., I tend to agree with her. Like, this thing is in your face, over the top. Like, you raise eyebrows when you pull this thing out. The next observation that I had about the Microtech Hawk Auto is going to be the finish on the blade. So there's this PVD finish on the blade. Obviously, it's the same kind of flat. I definitely wouldn't call it glass or matte. Probably a flat black on the finish, but that translates to the blade as well. And actually, like in these holes here, they actually painted the inside. But I thought that this was a really cool touch because the way that they did the paint kind of, up here on the blade itself, whatever, please ignore the huge Microtech logo. I'm not even going to cover that because it's ridiculous how the Microtech brands these things. I mean, it looks a lot cleaner on the side, let's be honest. But this PVD black, like I thought it did a really good job of kind of making the machining on the blade pop, and they definitely went over the top with it, but I think it looks really, really cool. So kudos to Microtech. Also, I mean, just the way that this thing is finished, it is razor sharp, and little BTS on me. I actually recently picked up a wicked sharp sharpening system, and after experimenting on my neighbor slash friend's kitchen knives, which I'm not going to use my own to do that, I mean, a lot of time and effort went into this blade, so I can kind of appreciate that a little bit more now, knowing what kind of goes into getting an edge like this. So really great blade all around. Can't say a bad thing about it. The next observation that I had was just the jimping on this knife. So there's a little bit of jimping back here, then there's more on the frame. It's almost like this being an aluminum kind of sandwich construction. They just kind of kept the jimping, like, it's a little bit underwhelming, actually. Like, I wouldn't say it, I don't have doubts that my thumb won't stay on here. To be honest with you, like, the most natural way for me to hold this is choked up, which there's no jimping up here on the spine, but the jimping on here is very minimal, and it's just, they literally just worked it into the aluminum. There's really not much texturing that goes on there, so I was surprised. Not much jimping on this thing to speak of. The next observation, I kind of hit it in the beginning, but man, this blade is thick. Like the steel is extremely thick. When I saw how thick it was kind of prior to thinking about it, I was like, man, this thing is just going to be so heavy. But the aluminum, although not a quote unquote premium material, really keeps this thing light and very balanced. It's very comfortable to have in your hand. It doesn't really feel cumbersome at all, definitely due to the aluminum. So again, that's where I get a little bit apprehensive about the $400 to $500 MSRP on this thing. But I mean, if this was titanium, it would just be a freaking paperweight. So I think they did a good job choosing aluminum for the handles, keeping in mind that this blade, although the only thing it's really good for is, like we said, cutting flesh, they threw a thick ass blade on this thing. The next observation that I had about the Microtech Hawk was just the action, and holy moly, this thing freaking rips out. It's one of like the strongest firing auto knives I have ever owned, held, used, whatever. Like, this thing is angry, and honestly, like, I know I was talking about the Microtech LUDT is kind of be like, resetting a bear trap. This one takes it to a whole new level where you just kind of, you feel the mass of the blade, and you just kind of hope that lock engages to hold it. Like, I don't know, like, I was just like pretty nervous. I trust it kind of as far as I can throw it, but that should be noted. Like, this thing just freaking rips out. Like, if you did slow motion, like, it would be, this thing gets your wrist going. Like, I mean, it's absolutely insane. And with that, my other observation was just in normally this stuff, like, again, I'm not some like snowflake, like, oh, we need a safety, whatever. This button kind of has me a little bit nervous. So it's definitely not, set into the frame where, like, if you just brushed up against it, like, it actually sits above the frame a little bit where, there's no safety on this. I know that was one of my things of the ProTech push button auto that I reviewed. I was like, oh, safety on a knife, like, that's so cool. This one almost could do with a safety just because this button protrudes past, like, the guard. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, hey, if I have this thing in my pocket, it rubs against, like, my keys, or I hit it weird, like, something else this shape in my pocket could conceivably hit this, and this thing is ripping out, which again brings me to my next point. Like, I don't think that this thing will just fire for no reason. Like, I mean, it would definitely have to be depressed, but if this thing opens in your pocket, I don't think it opening in and of itself would, like, slash an artery or anything like that. But this opening in your pocket and you trying to reach in to close it or get it out of your pocket, like that, there will be blood for sure. So, I mean, just that something that just kind of came to mind with me again. Like, if you trust these things and it's of no issue, hey, never had any problems, whatever. I don't want to be over dramatic about it, but the way that this button kind of sticks out, if you have other things in your pocket, I would definitely be a little bit worried about hitting that, because the button does stick up past where the, this guard, this little like ramp up is. So just something to be of note, and be very careful closing this thing. Just my 2 cents. All right, the next observation that I had with the Microtech Hawk Auto is going to be their choice of hardware, which, historically Microtech has kind of picked kind of more proprietary hardware, but this is just going to utilize your run-of-the-mill Torx bits. So I think that that's really cool, like being able to take this down. Not that I would, I don't need that headache of taking apart a push button auto, but it's kind of neat that they used your more standard hardware that everybody kind of has laying around their junk drawer to be able to take this down if you need to. The last kind of plug or observation that I had was, this is just a very tall knife, but I will say I appreciate kind of like conversely to knives like the half-face blades, that SHPOS, or even some other karambits that I've seen. I like that the tip is fully covered, right? So like nothing's gonna get caught on here. Like you don't really have to worry about the tip getting snagged on everything. But the result of that is, I mean, this is such a tall knife. Like it really is. I'll try to get here just compared to a large Sebenza closed up. I mean, it basically, it's like, I mean, this thing can just cover up this large Sebenza. So that's just another observation. Like this sitting in your pocket, like you can feel it. But I will say that the weight is spread out, but it's a very, very, very tall knife. Yeah, I don't know. So that concludes my overview of the Microtech Hawk Auto. I think all in all that, who does this knife appeal to? I mean, someone that's definitely like, larger than life. It kind of reminded me of like a action movie like villain's knife that he'd like pull out or whatever, because it is big, it's in your face. Like the color scheme on here is a little bit like menacing. Like this thing really is just good for cutting flesh. It's definitely not a subtle knife or inherently useful, unless like, I don't know, you like people kind of looking at you sideways when you're opening your Amazon packages. And other than that, I mean, I don't know. It's a beautiful knife. I could definitely see more collectors owning this than users, but Microtech puts it out there. I got a great deal on it, so wanted to share it all, share it with you all. But with that concludes my review. Appreciate you all tuning in. I do have quite a couple knives that I got in, that ProTech, and then this Curtis. I'm gonna kind of take another look at that. So definitely more content coming up. But yeah, appreciate you all tuning in. We will see you next time.